Today we'll start Unit 3 and the third unit of your syllabus is Electrochemistry, right? Now this is the first presentation of the unit, and as previously done also, we'll just do the introduction and we'll just try to learn the basic definitions and basic terms which we'll be using in the upcoming presentations and upcoming topics. Now in this first slide, I have a diagram in front of you, and it's an interesting diagram. We have an aloo here. The first diagram is very simple for a chemistry student to comprehend. दो beakers हैं, एक में zinc sulfate है, एक में copper sulfate है. There's a salt bridge, a chemical reaction takes place, redox reaction takes place, chemical energy is produced, and that chemical energy is converted into electrical energy. This is the most basic setup of an electrochemical reaction. Now in this case we have a potato here, and potato in this actually acts as a salt bridge. It is the same setup, a same kind of an arrangement, but in place of a chemical salt bridge we have used a vegetable. How? Why can we use a vegetable? I think by the end of the unit we should be able to answer this question and many more questions like this. As I said, let's do the introduction. Electrochemistry कहते किसे हैं? It is obviously a part of chemistry, a branch of chemistry. Under this heading, what do we study? We study the relationship between electrical energy and chemical changes taking place in redox reactions. As far as redox reactions are concerned, हमारा next topic है redox reactions, and we'll do an elaborate presentation on redox reactions. For now, I'm sure you know, redox reaction is a reaction in which reduction and oxidation, both the processes, are taking place simultaneously. Thus the name redox. Now इस redox reaction में chemical change क्या हो रही है, and what is the relationship between that chemical change and the electrical energy? That is what we study under the topic, under this heading, electrochemistry. Now two types of relationships can be there. We have two diagrams here. Let's pay attention to the first one. This is a galvanic cell. This is an electrolytic cell. In this case, what happens? हमारे पास एक बीकर है, हम दो भी ले सकते हैं. एक साइड जिंक सल्फेट है, दूसरे साइड में कॉपर सल्फेट है, and they're divided. The beaker is divided into two compartments by a porous disc, right? Then a reaction takes place, a redox reaction takes place, chemical energy is generated, and that chemical energy is converted into electrical energy. What happens in this whole setup, we'll do it in detail later in the chapter. For now, this much is enough, that a chemical reaction takes place which is spontaneous, which starts on its own. जैसे ही आपने सारा setup किया, the chemical reaction starts, and finally we have chemical energy being converted into electrical energy. Whereas in this setup, the reaction is non-spontaneous. It will not start on its own. So how do we start it? We give it electrical energy, so that some electrical energy is absorbed by these components in the cell, and then only the reaction starts. यहाँ पे chemical reaction was spontaneous. From chemical energy we generated electrical energy. यहाँ पे we have to provide electrical energy so that a non-spontaneous chemical change can take place. Both are electrochemical processes. दोनों में there's a relationship between chemical change taking place and electrical energy. But since it's kind of a reverse relationship in two of them, this is a galvanic cell जिसमें ये relationship हो, and जिसमें इस kind का relationship हो, it is an electrolytic cell. I have written the whole description here. If a redox reaction takes place in a single beaker, we can take two beakers also, जैसे हमने first slide में देखा, using a salt bridge. It is not necessary that you take one beaker only. The beaker will become warmer. जो experiment आप करोगे lab में, the observation you will make is that beaker will become warm. What is the reason? Because when the reaction takes place, energy is released, called the chemical energy, and this chemical energy is later converted into electrical energy, and the examples of this arrangement are galvanic cell or voltaic cell. And the second one is this. What is it? if a reaction is not spontaneous. Electrical energy is supplied to start the reaction. Such reactions occur only when they absorb some amount of this electrical energy, and then the flow of current due to the movement of ions takes place. This is a different detail. We call that moment electrolytic conduction. This setup, this arrangement is called as an electrolytic cell, and the phenomenon is called as electrolysis. In the next slide we have, अगर आपको classify करना हो electrochemical cells को, the broad classification is this. There are two types, galvanic cells and electrolytic cells. Galvanic cells in fact बहुत सारे types की होती है. यहाँ पे these two are the main kinds, chemical and concentration cells. These two, they are both galvanic. If they are galvanic, इनमें क्या होता है? There's a spontaneous chemical reaction taking place. After that chemical reaction, chemical energy is generated, which is converted into electrical energy. However, there's a difference between the two. What is the difference? In the first one, chemical cells, there is no exchange of matter taking place from one part of the cell to another. कोई exchange of matter नहीं है. The basic thing is the same, that electrical energy is produced due to a chemical change, but without any exchange of matter. Whereas in concentration cells, there is an exchange of matter. Electrical energy is produced due to physical change involving transfer of matter from one part of the cell to another, like this, transfer of matter from one part to another. As I said, हम ये सारी cells in detail करेंगे आगे presentations में, that what is the mechanism, what is basically going on in these cells. The last slide of today's presentation is importance of electrochemistry. What kind of a role does electrochemistry play in our lives? The first one, you can see some very important metals and chemicals. They are produced by electrochemical methods only. We have sodium, magnesium, calcium, aluminium, sodium hydroxide, chlorine, fluorine, and many more chemical substances can be produced by electrochemical methods. Second, devices में, gadgets में जो हम batteries use करते हैं, cells use करते हैं, what is the mechanism? This is the mechanism that उनमें जो chemical compound होता है उसमें redox reaction हो जाती है, chemical energy is generated and is converted into electrical energy जिस पे आपकी devices run करती हैं, right? Number 3, there's a biological significance also. What is it? That the sensor signals between the brain and the cells and all the other communications between cells, they're based on this phenomenon only. They're based on the phenomenon of electrochemistry. All of them are the electrochemical phenomena. जो भी communication है between the brain and the cells, and as is written here, other communications between cells. The most important significance of electrochemistry is this, because the world is dealing with pollution right now, and this technology, every kind of a technology based on the phenomenon of electrochemistry is important because it is energy efficient, energy produce हो जाएगी अच्छी खासी, and it is less polluting, right? I used a very simple diagram here. Batteries है इसमें, batteries which we use in our daily life.